Hello everyone, my name is Christy Marinza and today I'll be discussing quantum computing technology. So to start off, you might ask, what is quantum computing? Well, basically, this is a technology that utilizes quantum physics and it's able to create new and interesting ways of computing. Quantum physics is basically the behavior of atoms and other elements like photons and electrons, and quantum computing basically takes control of these elements through its complex systems and data processing that it can do. This technology takes control of the different particles that come from quantum physics, and it does this in a way that is totally different from our everyday computers. One thing that I wanted to put out there is that quantum computers are not the more powerful version of our everyday computers. Just like how you cannot build a better light bulb by creating better and better candles. And now we'll be taking a closer look on the inside of quantum computing and somewhat of how it works. So we're going to start off with the superfluids, and these basically cool down the superconductors. And once these are cooled down, they are pretty much able to generate these electrons that are inserted in a superconduct, and these basically create electron pairs. These pairs go through a junction, and then qubits are made and photons are aimed at them. They take control of them and helps gather information. So the qubits continue to accumulate, and the more they accumulate, the more powerful they get. And last but not least, the quantum computing gets entangled, and these qubits come in sync with one another. So a little bit more information on quantum computing. The computers range from between $10,000 to $10 billion. Here are a few companies that are using quantum computing, and here are a few companies that are still developing quantum computing. And as mentioned before, I talked about the qubit. Basically, these qubits are able to store very important information in its quantum form. So these quantum qubits use an extended version of 0 to 1 when they process the information, but it can also use the 0, 1 to 10 form. To create a better understanding, if computers were coin tosses, a 0 to 1 would be the outcome of our heads or tails. But with quantum computing, just like when you're spinning a coin, it can be heads or tails at the same time, just like how there can be a 0 to 1 form at the same time. This may not make very much sense, but overall, qubits can be in the 0 to 1 form at the same time. And these qubits are made through a very super complex system by using photons and electrons. Quantum computing is being used in many different ways. It's being used in battery charging, especially in Mercedes-Benz new models. They're trying to use quantum computing to develop a better understanding over their batteries. It's also being used to create new medicine and to limit the amount of carbon emissions that is going into the air. And it's also being used to stop hacking from taking place. So we need this technology because it can problem solve and create solutions to very complex scenarios and combinations that need to be made. It's also much faster than regular computers, and it can understand very complex combinations and apply these scenarios into our everyday lives. Some of the advantages of quantum computing is, as mentioned before, it is much faster than regular computers. It's great for simulations, meaning that it can stimulate weather forecasting, and it can also create medicine, detect different diseases, and just generate different formulas for medications. It's also great for Google because it helps find relevant searches on there, and it's good for privacy because it's hard to decode the encryption. Some of the disadvantages is that it requires very low temperatures in order to be created. It's not open for the public, and it's not always secure because some people can find codes to the entire internet. So that is it for quantum computing, and overall, I thought this technology was very interesting, and I'm really excited to see some of the new ways that it can impact the world.